Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Prepare to Read. It's been a while, but we're here to talk about Way of Kings again. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing good. We took a 4-month break, so I'm well rested, ready to go. Had to brush off the old book. Had cobwebs all over it, man. It was like a tome, actually, picking it back up again. But no, I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, there's a lot going on, so we took a bit of a break, but Jacob has a spaceship of a computer now, so he'll be able to do a lot more.
Yeah, man. I got it set up now, so it'll be... We'll see, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think we saw... Actually, like... We've tried to do a couple things, right? And, like, nothing's ever really... What do you call it? Like, gotten traction. And then this is the one thing where we had people commenting, and we just dropped the bag, so... I hope people are still out there.
Yeah, so all of you guys that did comment, thanks for commenting. We did read them, and we were taking note of them. But continue doing that as you guys are going through them, and as we continue to work through Way of Kings. We want to hear what you guys are thinking, and if you're following along with us. But today, we're going to be getting into the first set of interludes in the book. So we've already finished part 1. We're going to get into these interludes, and then we will move on to the next part of the book. But getting into interlude 1, this one is from the point of view of Ishik, I believe is his name. And he's a fisherman, and he's pretty much being interrogated by a bunch of foreigners named Fu Rallis, Fu Namir, Fu Albast, and Fu Morin, who are in the search of a man who they refer to as Hoid. So what did you think about this interlude, Jacob?
Well, first of all, I'm going to address your interrogation thing. I don't feel like he's being interrogated in this scene. It feels much more of like he's just exchanging information, and it comes off a lot more intense because he keeps talking about the pace of life that he likes and the pace of life that these other people like, and I think they're just frustrated with him. I don't think he's necessarily being interrogated because he also got paid too. They gave him money afterwards, but I like this chapter. I think I liked all of these chapters, actually. These interludes, at first I was kind of like, like story just got going, and then you're gonna hit me with 3 interludes that you had told me are like not really connected to the story at the moment. So it's kind of like, man, one of my issues was pacing in part 1. And then it's like, all right, cool, let's take 3 chapters to not continue the story and go do something else. But I really liked what this interlude itself did as far as just leaving more intrigue, man. I feel like he's going to set up a lot of breadcrumbs. And this is more breadcrumbs. Like, who is Hoid? Who are these people? Why are they lying to Ishik? Also, this Pure Lake sounds like a place of... what'd you call it? Like a utopia in this world. And why aren't people here? Why are people choosing to go to the Shattered Plains? Like what's going on with this area? And then it also sounds too like, even though the Pure Lake is a place of tranquility right now, Ishik does bring up like, I don't know, things seem off right now, and it's like very ominous. But I like this chapter. Very different, very evoked emotions of Vietnam. Never been there, but just the descriptions that were given reminded me very much so of that.
Yeah, I'd say this chapter does a good job at kind of a bit of world building, a bit more of just one of the small fishermen in this world that is also kind of getting tied up in the bigger things that are happening. But one thing that I wanted to point out about the foreigners who are interviewing Ishik was that none of them were armed. And I just noticed that looking at the chapter notes. But none of them are armed. And I think that's important because they're looking for this Hoid guy. So I'm guessing they're not finding Hoid to be dangerous in any way.
Now, it sounds to me like Hoid's their friend, the way they talk about him. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're out hunting him to hurt him.
So
I think it's more of like, hey, this guy got lost or something, or ran away, something like that.
I don't remember up to this point, but do we know who Hoid is?
No,
Hoid.
I have no
the
idea.
name
who that
Hoid
is.
has
That's a
never
new
been
name.
mentioned.
That's a new name for me.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Because,
I circled it.
yeah. And also, are all of the foreigners Alethi or no?
No, one looks like an Alethi. Just description-wise, they say he has tan-like skin like him, or like an Alethi. But then the other ones are, they say it here, let me see. They are... I also don't think I got their right. I think you gave me names that were not given in the book, by the way. They are Makabaki.
Actually, the names I gave were not the names of the foreigners. Those were the names of the villages that Ishik has searched through, but has not found the man that they were seeking. So we don't know the name of the foreigners, I believe.
Well, they give him names, but he's like, these are fake names, so
like placeholder names
about them. Well, like they actually say, "Hey, my name is so and so," and the Ishik in his head is like, "I don't care. Like these are fake names, so like I don't care about them."
Okay.
But they are, two of them are Makabaki.
Unusually
Makabaki.
thick
One looks like
for his kind and bald.
Yeah. Big boys. Big boys.
Okay. Well, at the end of this, after the whole interview process, the last thing that happens is the foreigners pay him with a pouch of spears. And the notes here are pretty much saying that they think that they want Ishik to continue searching for Hoid. Or I guess just continuing finding information and giving it to them.
It says that they give him more instructions, but it does not detail what those instructions are. So maybe he's going to go look for him some more. He thinks it's a fool's errand to look for this guy. And then apparently this guy goes like by many names and has disguises. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going on there. And then we do get this I underlined it because I feel like for the most part, things haven't been said in like a language, like dialect, but this line is, and it's Alavanta Kamalu Kayana. That mean anything to you?
No.
Well, anyways, that's said in that way. And he hasn't, I don't think he's done that in the rest of this book, where he's actually like switched to like an in-world language and said something. So I figured that's going to be important. And I'm actually going to take notes of that right now because I didn't.
Yeah, so Hoid is definitely a character we'll want to keep in mind. And I like that you pointed out that he dyes his hair and wears disguises. Because I feel like he can maybe be brought up in a way that he's maybe not referred to as Hoid, but maybe based on some breadcrumbs that Brandon Sanderson leaves, we'd be able to deduce that, like, okay, this is Hoid, but he's disguised.
Yeah.
So.
I would say, I don't know. That's all I got. That's all I got in this chapter. It's pretty short.
Yeah, each one of these is kind of like its own little story. But
well, okay. Let me ask you this. What do you think of the world building here? Because I think this is very obvious. Like there's a lot of, okay. I re-listened to our episode of reviewing, and there's I think kind of complained a little bit about the world building, a little bit, I think. What do you think about the world building in this chapter?
Well, I think it's good. I think the series, it's a really big series. If we were to compare it really quickly to just another very popular one like Wheel of Time, I would say it's not as slow to me as Wheel of Time. But I think Way of Kings is very much establishing the world. And it's a lot to expect like a 1,000-page book to be establishing a world. But it is. So there's going to be a lot of world building in this book. But I liked it. I think it was good. I don't know how it would feel reading it the way that you're reading it, because I kind of just read it all at once. I didn't really break it into sections. So maybe I didn't feel it as much. But I don't mind the world building. I think it adds to the story as a whole. As far as this chapter on its own going through it again, honestly, I can't entirely answer a lot of things either. I know,
or like you,
me, like I know who Hoid is. That's about it. Everything else on the context of like why are they looking for him, I don't know.
yeah,
maybe I should know, but I read the books a while back, so I don't really remember entirely.
yeah, and I think it's just the whole pacing thing, you know, like I feel like part 1 was picking up steam, and then it's like
We also took 4
judging the
months
interludes
off.
for what they're given as. Yeah, that is true.
So no, I think and we talked about this a bit. I think part 1 and part 2 are slower, because this book took me a little bit to get into. I think I started a couple of times, but after I got past part 1, part 2, that's when it just started flying. Things really started happening, because looking ahead to the next section we're going to read. Now we're going to be looking at 2 new characters, POVs, that you don't know anything about. So we're almost going to be starting a new book. So
yeah. And I am ready to talk about the next interlude, though, because this one caught my interest, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'll just to give a really quick overview of this one. This one is from the point of view of Non-Balat, and it takes place in Jah Keved. And Non-Balat is Shallan's elder brother, and he's caught in his Jeffrey Dahmer stage where he's torturing animals in the garden of their estate.
He is.
And he's pretty much reflecting on the whole Shallan is doing everything, she's doing all the work, I'm doing nothing. And he admits to kind of resenting Shallan because of what's going on, and also because of the relationship between Shallan and her father, where apparently the father never truly became angry with her or anything of that sort. And at the end, they pretty much get interrupted by Tet Wickham, which is his younger brother. And yeah, so what you think about it, Jacob?
So I think this, I am going to be disappointed if we don't get more of this character in this book, because this has been I feel like I've gotten Brandon Sanderson's like tone, I think, as far as how this world is going to go. Like, it is violent, but it's also never like
it's
disturbing.
not Game of Thrones.
No, but then this chapter is immediately, him describing the satisfaction of tearing apart a crab. And I think getting that view, right? Like, that's a very, how do I say this?
Like, it contrasts a lot with the tone that he's set so far.
Definitely. And it reminds me of Wheel of Time, book 2. What is it? The Great Hunt, where you start getting Podon Fane's point of views dispersed across the book, and it's just like sick. Mm-hmm. This does that immediately, and then like you find out like, oh shit, this guy's Shallan's brother, and then you hear a little bit more, which we kind of already knew it went down a little bit, but then you hear a little deeper, and it's one of those things where this character is set up in a way where I want to read more about him. Like, he is not a completely good character. Like, he does things that make my insides crawl, but then also it's kind of like, well, damn, bro, like maybe he just needs a good break. He needs something to go his way.
Yeah.
But like, I was absorbed in this chapter. Also, that weird, I don't know what the hell that dog is, but it just reminded me of like an eel, or like, what are those things in they have them in D&D. They're like the little jaguars with the black tails and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Creepy
I know what
thing.
you're talking about.
I love this chapter. I also think it's like, what's going on here in Jah Keved, right? Yeah, because not to go to Interlude 3 yet, but our boy Szeth Sanson was over there too.
Your favorite.
Like, yeah, Szeth Sanson Volano. He was over there. Shallan's coming from over there. Obviously, there's some weird turmoil stuff.
I think this one,
I hate to say it.
Go for it.
Okay, go for it. No, go for it. No, I was just gonna say it's very Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
like it's icky.
I think that also seeing where Shallan's brother is like in his head, I think also adds a little bit more to Shallan's character, because she's not presented in this way, and obviously they're different, but if somebody was able to be where he is from their upbringing, it makes you think like, what has Shallan gone through also, and what is she 100%. Hiding?
No, I think that's yeah, I mean that's exactly where my mind went, where obviously there's some family trauma that took place.
Yeah. Because we know like Shallan is trying to get money. We already know that. Like, she's willing to lie. She's trying to get money to like bail out a situation. But
well, she thinks her house, for I think that's what they call them in this universe, is like on the brink of being no more.
Yeah.
So she is like for desperate, trying to save her family, like existing. You know, it's not just about money. I think at that point, like that is, hey, I think her father owed some debts and stuff, but it's about like, my family will not continue. Who knows what's gonna happen? You know, like I don't know how this world works, but I would imagine you get overthrown, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna get killed. So,
and I like that you brought up kind of the political intrigue, because since we're going through it in such small chunks, it's a lot easier to appreciate this stuff. But like how they're establishing like this new setting of Jocheved, and we're able to now, like, we're building this palette of different areas and different cultures, and so that's pretty cool to see also. Do you remember what the big problem that the younger brother comes to announce?
No, it doesn't say. It stops.
Okay.
It says, how large a problem? Pretty big. And then that's it.
Okay. Any ideas or thought to what that might be?
I think someone's come to collect debts. That's what I think it is. Someone's here knocking on the door of like, yo, it's time to pay up. Okay. I want to hang here a little bit more too. So this guy reminds me of the guy with the cane in Arcane. Do you remember him?
I don't.
He's like the research guy.
Okay.
And then the guy, I'm blanking on his name, from House of the Dragon, also with a cane, the other cripple.
Strong.
Yeah, Laris, right? I don't know what it is. Like, I just feel like there's been 3 times now in recent media that I've watched where he makes somebody cripple and then also kind of weird at the same time. And I don't know. It's just, hey man, like, I'm not making any statements, but it's 3 for 3 right now. So that's just what he reminds me of. But also, like, I love these types of characters. Like I said,
the more great
making
characters.
Me feel. Well, it's just like, it's not even great. Like, he's ripping an animal apart to make it like himself feel better. There's no greatness about that.
Yeah.
You know? But then it's also like, well, shoot. I mean, like, he also, like, I do feel bad for what he went through, but I don't feel bad that he's ripping a crab apart. But also, like, I want to read, like, don't take me away from him, you know? I got to see this. Also, funny enough, is non not the same thing they use for in Dune? Like, does Fade Routha, isn't he like the non-Baron or something like that?
You mean like the title of non?
Yeah. Where it's like, hey, you're the one in line or whatever.
I don't remember. Maybe.
I don't know. That's just, that popped into my head. So I love this chapter. This was, again, it's a thing where it's like, why are you showing me stuff and then taking it away from me? That's my biggest complaint with this book right now. I don't have big complaints, but it's just like this was like, let me stay here. Let me stay here. Let me live with this character. And then it's going to be like, well, maybe I'll see him in 5 years, I don't know when the next time we're going to read a chapter from him.
I think just this series, just like anybody reading Wheel of Time, is just kind of like, you're in it for the long run, So you just got to accept, hey, I'm not here for this character in books, but that's just the nature of the series. I will say I think Sanderson is way better at just like pacing compared to Wheel of Time, in my opinion. That's just what I think. So, yeah, we'll come back to the discussion about this family again. So, getting into.
All right, you got any questions for me on this one?
No, I already asked kind of a couple of the questions that I had in mind, but
Okay, well, I want to ask you some questions.
Okay.
How often do we get characters like this in this series?
Like very dark characters?
I mean, I don't think he's like edgy, but it's also like it's twisted, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
There's a couple of things that characters do that are pretty dark. I can think of two things that two different characters have done that were like, whoa, like that taints that character a bit. So
Okay.
that's all I'll say. Obviously, like you've seen, the tone of this is very, I would say, Final Fantasy. I feel like his series
It's
is
like PG-13.
Yeah, it's very
That's
Final
what I would call
Fantasy. But there are a couple things, but they're sprinkled in there.
Interesting. All right, we can move on.
Cool. So getting into the third interlude chapter, The Glory of Ignorance. This one is from the point of view of Szeth, and the setting is Bavland. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Bavland, not sure. But pretty much what happens here is Szeth is now serving a new man named Took, and he's pretty much just using him and abusing kind of the code that Szeth follows. That guy ends up getting murdered, and then Szeth's Oath Stone, which whoever owns the Oath Stone to Szeth pretty much controls him, and he has to obey that person, ends up falling to a new master. And to me, I like Szeth as a character, and I think this chapter is really interesting because it establishes kind of a new angle to Szeth's character. This whole, whoever has his Oath Stone, he has to follow whatever they say. And it kind of adds a level of like, is Szeth really bad? Is he good? Or he just has to obey his Oath Stone, like it's his religion. And I think it's in this chapter, but where they kind of establish that Szeth, he doesn't want to be used to kill people. And one thing it says is that he takes comfort in his common labor. Like he just wants to chill, he just wants to do his thing, but the people that he tends to fall under are always making him pretty much use his skills as an assassin. But yeah, so what did you think of this one?
I liked what this chapter did in terms of setup, because now obviously he gets in the hands of someone who would use him for more mischievous means. You know what I mean? And we've seen what he is capable of.
Yeah.
Like I don't think, I haven't seen much in this book, but like this guy, I'm imagining, can go toe to toe with anyone, so in the wrong hands, he's a very deadly weapon. So that, like, him being in the hands of someone who obviously doesn't have the best intentions, yeah, very interesting. Love the setup of that. I don't know how I feel about the O-Stone stuff as of right now, because I feel like it's an interesting plot point, but also from a character perspective, like, I'm kind of like, all right, he already hated it. Like, he hated it before, and he still hates it now. And it's like, again, like, very dispersed feelings of it, but it's like, okay, well, I'm 100 pages in, and like this character hasn't, you know what I mean? Like there's I don't love Szeth, I'm gonna say that, mainly but just because of his name. But I'm kind of like, all right, like I get he has to do it, he doesn't want to do it. Maybe I'm just being too hard on him right now, but I do like, okay, cool.
So
now he's
you
in the
don't
hands
like
of some
that
people
he
who aren't.
has to follow a code. Like you
I
don't
just feel like
that.
it takes away some agency from him, and like, I don't know, maybe like if he starts fighting against it, that would be what I find interesting, But I also don't know, like, why is he so attached to this code, And I feel like I need that to buy in a little bit more. Like, what did he have to give to? Like, why? Why is he in this situation? Why is he so skilled, and why is he so against using this skill? Like, what happened? Was he kidnapped? Was he taken away from somebody? I don't know. Like, I just have a lot of questions with him that I think I want answers to, and I know they're going to be drip fed to me, which I get it. It's part of the game, but, it's just kind of like, why? Like, I need to know why it's happening, I guess. Like, okay, yeah, you give me your O stone, but then from a character level, why did he agree to do this and then hate to do it? Obviously, maybe he didn't agree to do it, but then, I don't know, it's just a lot of mystery around him, and it's kind of like, again, the whole thing where I'm 200 pages into the book and I'm still getting the frustration of, there's so many questions, which again, it's not a knock to the book. It's just at times I'm like, okay, I want some more.
Just read it faster.
Yeah. I mean, that is true, but also I'm not. I took a 4-month break, so, but no, I think it is interesting though, that it's like, his whole thing that he can't kill himself, which I think if he could, he would, which is interesting. Like, I like that. It reminds me a lot. He mirrors Kaladin in that way, where I think this is where, like, okay, I'm going to maybe go back a little bit here. Some of my concern is that I've seen Kaladin at his lowest, what I think, I might be wrong, but it's like book 1, part 1. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay.
Remind me where we left Kaladin.
He decided not to kill himself,
okay,
and is like taking on the responsibility of like, hey, like I'm gonna lead these guys through this and try not to
just remind me of some good stuff that's coming. Oh man.
But like, I feel like I've seen Kaladin at his rock bottom, and it's like we have 5 books to go. How much growth does that give that character? Like, what can he go through? And then same thing, I feel the same way with Szeth, where it's like, I think this is his rock bottom, right? Like, he killed a king, and he felt like shaken after because of how it went down. And now he's like, he doesn't want to do what he was made to do, it sounds like. And I think he'd rather be dead. So it's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I think I talked myself into liking this chapter more.
I think you also brought up a really cool point, is that like, now that Szeth is in the hands of somebody who knows what they're going to do with him, that makes him very interesting. And also, like you pointed out, Szeth has been shown this guy can do anything. Like, he can topple a kingdom. He could go kill a king. So he is a very, very dangerous tool to have. But will the person who has him now realize that potential, or are they just going to use him for like petty crime?
Well, also, little nugget, hold on, I'm taking my notes because I just saw this. He left the black sphere King Gavilar gave him. Guess where, Marcos?
Where?
Jah Kaved.
Okay.
What does that mean? I don't know, but I'm seeing a triangulation point. You know what I mean? There's Jah Kaved, and then there's the Shattered Plains. What's going on there? I don't know.
This other place, Bovland.
I didn't get that name in this chapter.
Maybe that's just a notes thing, but
yeah, I'm curious what your notes, like, what they filter and what they don't. Like, is it like, hey, if you can point to it on the map, we're gonna say it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was in Jah Kaved, left the black sphere there, and he, like, just to hide it, to be rude with it. So that's definitely going to come back up again, right? That's got to. And I think our boy Nan Balat will actually find that black sphere. That's my little prediction. I'm going to write that down. Nan Balat.
Nice.
Will.
Well, I don't have too much else to really say on this. Do you have anything else on these interludes? How do you feel about the interludes now that you've kind of read the first section of them?
Well, I would like to think that they're connected, right? I would like to think that they're here for a reason. Yeah, we got these 3 at this point. Is it just chronologically happening, and that's why they're here? Or is it, hey, these all make sense to be presented here as a theme? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them. I don't love I think when I read books that like interlude or like go away from a story, I think of It, right, where you're reading the story of the kids and stuff, and then you get those one chapters with the guy who like stayed in Derry, and every now and then, and he has like his research that he's putting together. I think I might prefer that style of it, where it's like, I don't know, a little more different. Because now I'm like, okay, are these characters going to come up? Is this stuff I really need to pay attention to, or is it more of just like, hey, by the way, this is happening in the world, you know?
Yeah, I get you. It does add a little
know.
meat to the overall world, though. Like you need to be paying attention, trying to find clues and maybe like the cultures or the names or the land that something happened. So.
And it's always tricky with like the fantasy books where it's like, oh, like, you know, does this matter? Does this not matter? And then like eventually when you go back and reread them and you're like, oh, dude, that was so important. I didn't even notice it.
Especially
you know
like Wheel of Time, a series like that.
But I liked the interludes. I liked the first two a lot. Szeth, he just makes me laugh too much.
I
think, you know, San Volano of Shinovar. I think they were good. Like you said, you had warned me, like, hey, there's not much to dig on these.
Well, I think there is, but it doesn't connect super closely with the section we just read. I think these would be interesting. Like, hey, we've caught up already. Now let's go and see if we can find some nuggets in the interludes. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm keeping my notes. I've been making some predictions in these episodes, and I feel like we did a right turn here. You know, like a boom. We're not on those stories anymore, so I feel like my predictions don't track. But I do have a new prediction. Non-Ballet will find King Gavilar's Black Sphere. And I don't think that's a coincidence that gets brought up, the Black Sphere, and then it looks like our next chapter is with Dalinar, right?
My boy.
Am I right?
Yeah.
In saying that? Which is the king's brother.
Dalinar is one of my favorite characters. So we're now going to get... This past section was mainly Kaladin and Shallan, I think, were like the two main POPs. Now we're going to learn about Kaladin, because this is Kaladin's book, but also Dalinar and Adolin are going to be kind of the three main characters we focus on. And Adolin is one of my favorite characters. He kind of reminds me, again, I haven't read this book in years, but he kind of reminds me a bit of like a Jaime Lannister, in like this guy has it all.
He likes his sister too much.
Not that type of book, but no, that like he has it all. You know, like he is the good-looking guy. He's the top fighter. Like he has all of that. But what is he really like underneath those layers? So he's a really good character. I love Dalinar. So yeah, I'm really excited to get into these next parts, because yeah, the book is really going to start to add so much characters. And I like how you've brought up that we've seen Kaladin kind of at his lowest, and we got to see kind of like his fall into that, because I think that's going to play a really big part in how you process like the emotions of what happens now. So.
Yeah, I do feel like I'm hoping we're 200 pages in. The stage is set for the book. I know obviously the series is planning to be like 12,000 books or something like that.
Well, actually, this next book that's coming out, I believe it's the 6th book. It comes out in December. It's supposed to be, the way he explained it is, I think, yes, it's supposed to be like 13 or 14 books when it's done. But this next book is supposed to be the end of this part, or like this era. Like, you could almost read these books as just like its own series, and the next ones are going to be like the next era. I can't really explain
like the Skywalker
that.
saga.
Oh gosh, don't bring that up. I can't really explain what I think that means yet, but I have some ideas of what it might mean.
Okay. Do you think? Do you remember my thoughts on like the first part of the book?
No, if you want to remind me though.
I would feel like I was at like a lukewarm on it, as in, hey, there was some things I really liked, and then there was other things that really brought it down. And I think it was really the pacing of not finding a groove with one specific character and pushing them forward. Do you think I will feel differently starting part 2?
I think so, because like I told you, I kind of had a tough time with part 1. I feel like part 1, I took a while to get through it. But then once I got to a certain point, I just read all the books. From that point, it was just a roller coaster until I finished them all. So I think yes. I want to say yes. I guess we'll find out how like the emotional stuff starts to hit with you. You're gonna meet so many new characters, and also you don't really know anything as of right now. Just reading part 1, like anything about the big picture. What's going on, yeah, you know very little. So I think there's still a lot more for you to explore, for you to decide how you really feel. But.
No, I'm really interested to learn more. I want to see my predictions, because like what I've been shown, I think in part 1, there's some really cool theories I have that I think I want answers to. I don't know if I'll get them in this book, but there's a lot of questions that I want answered, and I think that's a good thing. So
Yeah,
I'm excited. I'm excited to start part 2, and these interludes were a nice little tea break, a little 4-month tea break.
get back into it.
Yeah, get back into it.
Well,
So-
as far as what's kind of next for the channel, if you're still listening, I did see that we got some viewers that were following along and have caught up to this point. So hopefully you guys have not forgotten about us. I wouldn't blame you if you did, because it's been a long time. But if you're still listening, so we're planning to continue with Way of Kings, and depending how Jacob feels about it, potentially going through the rest of these series. But we have been talking about doing another series after this one, or we don't really know how that's going to work just yet. But we've been thinking, or I've been thinking, about potentially diving into Red Rising, which is another pretty popular series that I read last year. Great series, really like it. But if there's any series that you guys potentially would like for us to take a look at, or if you want us to just keep doing what we're doing, feel free to comment about that stuff too. So, you got anything you want to add, Jacob?
No, just thank you to everybody who listened. That was pretty cool. That was nice to see, actually.
We were surprised.
Really, like, that's why we were like, we gotta do this. We gotta, what's going on, we gotta find some time. Hopefully it's not too late, but we loved seeing that, so that was really cool.
Yeah. Well, for those of you guys that are still listening, for our next episode, we are planning to read chapters 12 through 15. So the first 4 chapters of part 2. And yeah, we'll be here to talk about it next week, hopefully.
Bye.
See ya.